So I've been meaning to make an update video about the MG4 Extended Range, and I thought this is a good time as the car has just passed 50,000 kilometers, so just over 30,000 miles, and it's had its second service. So overall, the car has been very reliable. I have relatively few complaints. The bigger ones are to do with the stone chips on the front of the bonnet, so that seems to be a paint adhesion issue. So this is really one of my bigger issues with the car, and so that's the paint quality here on the bonnet. So you can see a few pretty nasty stone chips, like right here. And also the driver's seat, so the upholstery is starting to look a little bit wrinkled, although it hasn't deteriorated much since the last video at about 30,000 kilometers, 20,000 miles. So, but it does look a little bit worn, and that's to do with the artificial leather that's used in the seats. But I think it's going to stand the test of time as far as tearing, so I think at least in terms of durability that's not a problem. Another thing that really bothers me about the car, actually the user experience, is the application. So that's used to check on the charging status of the car, or to preheat the cabin, turn on the heated seats remotely, and so on. And it's really hit or miss. Like sometimes you'll refresh the app a few times before it will communicate with the car. Sometimes it doesn't work at all because the car's in a deep sleep mode and you have to go and manually unlock or lock the car to wake it up again. It's not something that I use too often with the app, because I don't really need to have scheduled charging or to preheat the cabin, except in winter. But it's definitely something annoying, and you'll see sometimes the car won't respond, sometimes it will time out because the car's lost connection or gone into a deep sleep mode. And this is something, regardless whether you use iOS or Android, I've had both, so yeah, it's really quite annoying, I think. So to go into some details about the service, so battery health was at 96%. And I generally charge the car to 80% for daily use. It's rarely fully charged, so it's not left fully charged for long periods of time, so that does help with battery longevity. It's just under 1% per 10,000 kilometers, around 6,000 miles. That's typically what's expected for this kind of battery. So this is nickel manganese cobalt battery, so that's the traditional type of battery. And this car doesn't have sort of any trickery like other cars that eat away at the buffer to compensate for degradation. So and the car also has a relatively small buffer. It's about 3 kilowatt hours, or around about 5% of the total battery capacity, so it doesn't eat away at the buffer to compensate. So yeah, and also bear in mind, you know, as the car gets older, that degradation is going to slow. When it's new, the battery tends to degrade much faster. So I don't expect it to really be an issue in the future. The LFP batteries, they tend to last a bit longer, so that's found in the MG4 standard range, and you can charge them to 100%. Every day. It's not considered to be a big problem. So as far as the drivability, livability of this car, the only complaint I have is the annoying lane keep assist. It has been improved in updates, but it's still poor. It's not as aggressive as it used to be, but it does struggle on narrow roads, so that's one thing to keep in mind. And also the infotainment system is pretty basic, as you can see in my previous review. It's reliable, it hasn't had any sort of issues, but it's only really good for using Android Auto or CarPlay. it does the built-in nav. It doesn't have a very good route plan or anything like that, so I would just stick to Android Auto or CarPlay using something like a better route planner. Regarding the sort of long distance drivability of this car, which is of course something that you're probably looking at if you're considering this car, it's rather good in the sense that, you know, that no issues of overheating. I had the car, I took the car up to Norway, so I had it on the German Autobahn, 130, 140 kilometers an hour, so, you know, about 85, 90 miles an hour, and charging the car rather frequently, so about every 200 kilometers, so every 2 hours or so, to 200 to 250 kilometers. And the car was able to sustain that. It didn't have any sort of issues with overheating, which is something that you see with some EVs. If you go and check out Bjorn Nuland on YouTube, on his channel, he does 1,000-kilometer tests with the cars, and you can see a lot of cars do overheat. That's not the case with this car. It gets really consistent charging speeds regardless of whether you're driving on long distance or not. The main issue with the car is that the charging time, 10 to 80%, it's a bit longer than I would expect or would like from a really modern car, and that just shows the platform's age, because the MG4's been on the market since 2022, and this car came out in 2023, the 77 kilowatt extended range, but it's still on that older platform, and the charging time, it's a little behind some rivals like the ID3 or Cupra Born, or even if you're looking at SUVs, then something like the Skoda Elroq. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. I'm happy with the car, but you know, I wouldn't necessarily buy it new today as it stands. I would probably go for the MG-S5 or the upcoming MG4 refresh, which should be coming sometime next year in Europe. So definitely something to consider, that this is a little bit of an older platform. To go into details on the 2-year service, there's not really anything major that was done. They replaced the brake fluid in the reservoir, so they build 0.5 litres of brake fluid, so that's just the reservoir that they've emptied and refilled, and they replaced the key fob battery. That was about it. Then they did, of course, the inspection and battery health check. The tyre profile was still well within limits, so 4mm on the back and 5 on the front, so you know, no unexpectedly high tyre wear. As for the service costs, so I had the car serviced in Norway. Unfortunately, I was just at the limit for the 2nd-year service, so I had to have it done in Norway, and it was around 530 euros, 6,000 Norwegian kroner. That is quite expensive. It's also much more than you would pay in the UK or Germany, which typically I've seen in the forums around 250 euros for the 2nd-year service, which to be honest is still quite expensive for an EV, and especially for the amount of work which is done in the 2nd-year service, which is in my case was just the key fob battery and the brake fluid and the general inspection and just checking that the car is in good order, as well as the battery health check. So obviously 500 euros, it's very expensive, typically around 250, but of course Norway being an extremely expensive country, and also high labor costs, this is, I've talked to Norwegian MG4 owners, and this seems to be pretty typical as far as price. Regarding the service schedule, I'm really not a fan of the 1-year service schedule. I think, you know, as far as an EV, you don't need a 1-year service schedule. Plus it's really only in the 4-year service where they're really doing a lot of work. The others are just typically inspections. When I see on the service schedule, which I will put here in the video, the 4-year service is really the big one. So that's when they're going to do the reduction gearbox oil and they're going to do the battery coolant as well, so that's really a big service. But I really wish they'd go for a 2-year service schedule, because also that lines up well with typically most European countries have a 2-year MOT schedule as well. So it's nice to combine the two. Plus, rivals like BYD have recently moved over to a 2-year schedule. So I think it's really unnecessary given what's done in the typical services up to the 4-year service where there's a lot of work being done. So I think to remain competitive, and also keeping in mind it's an EV, they should really move to a 2-year service schedule. I think that really does make the car a little bit unattractive as far as ownership costs, because you're paying typically around €200 every year for the servicing, and then the 4-year service obviously going to be a lot more expensive. So that's definitely something which I don't like about MG, and I wish they would get with the times there. Yeah, I mean, to give some buyer's advice whether I'd still recommend this car, well, depending on the price, it depends by market. But I think to buy this car new at this point, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense unless you're really getting a good discount, simply for the fact that this is a car which has been on the market since 2022, so coming on nearly 4 years now. And it does show its age as far as the infotainment system, and also the charging speed, which is something I've touched upon before. You're getting 144 kilowatt peak from this car, but the charging time is a bit behind the time. So you're looking, it's a little bit longer than you'd expect from more modern rivals like the ID3 or Cupra Born, which have had updates in recent years. So you're looking 10 to 80% in 38 minutes, which is true to reality, and I've tested that myself. I think that's a little bit long for a car of this battery size. Typically, the general rule is the bigger the battery, the more power it can take, and the quicker it should charge. So that's something to keep in mind. So I think to buy this car new, unless you're getting a really good discount on it, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense, even though it's been solid. But there are more modern rivals on the market. But I think buying this car used, as long as you make sure that you've got an intact warranty, because it has got a 7-year warranty on most major components. So if you've got an intact warranty, I think it can be an interesting option compared to European rivals, which have much shorter warranties. Of course, when you're looking at Korean or Japanese alternatives, they have got good warranties as well. So that's something to keep in mind. But overall, just to conclude this little update, I'm quite happy with the car, and nothing's really gone wrong with it, at least mechanically, and it's been really solid. The paint adhesion issue on the bonnet is something to keep in mind. That's something that really bothers me, because they are quite nasty stone chips, and you can see them, and this is something I haven't seen at this mileage with any of my previous cars. It does appear to be a kind of paint adhesion issue between the primer and the color coat, because you can see that the stone chips aren't rusting, so it hasn't gone down to bare metal. But it's definitely something which you can notice quite easily when you look at the car, and I'd assume it's much more noticeable with darker colors. So that's definitely something to keep in mind.